Minus the mazel tov, the melancholy mask is on. The matrix turns to marathon for those who are masculine, and God forbid if melanin is showing through your epiderm. You consider it epidemic, public enemy one. This manuscript is written on the membrane of a Macedon. Prehistoric pantheons will never die, carry on. Caravans of canons, Moabites and Sayons. The oppressors prey on and look for ground to lay on. Then get bit by a lion, Judah, a lion. These words get sprayed on the wall that fate's on. When the ship come, we phase on. The shift is a phaeton. The burden weighed a ton and suddenly is gone. Yeah, it's the subtle things that make your Aki's heart sing. The bellows from the diaphragm where honey's made from bees' wings. The laughter of a child brings some balance to the bloodstream. When war is at your front door, some peace is a welcome thing. It's the subtle things that make your Aki's heart sing. Aquatic drips from full springs from under earth where life clings. Better than ever, the word in every endeavor. Better than clever, the truth is wisdom ever. If you should doubt it and attempt to count it, just know that this is powered by no force, no time devours. No army cowers, no hate can sour. Cause on this hour, the seed flowers. Before the switching of scenes, let's hope that life finds its means. Allegiance to the right team. The murky water's now clean. The darkened path is now seen. The subtle things are now gleaned. The hero conquers the fiend. Ballast achieved on the beam. As this discovered in a time capsule in future times. Just know in this era there existed an enlightened mind. He carried water and within its essence was divine. Seated 3 daughters and the sun whose brilliant lights would shine. This type of light, let's be honest, is a rare kind. He aged gracefully, not hastily, fine wine. The word is arguably the artistry of the Arcanine. Articulate armory in the arteries is aquanine. Aboard to authorities with alliances, the sciences, defiances, the answers, the truly finding this. Ein is first, Ein soft second, Ein soft earth. Check it for the record, he is vested, he is tested. Golden product from the dark, wet ingested. Mic check it, 1, 2, bipedal. Babes and fetals, prodded with needles, protected nightly by scarab beetles. Not John, Paul, or Ringo. Peep the lingo. Awakened souls moving step like the rhythm's equal. Beautiful flowers growing up from fecal. Matters not if not approved by the people. The word. Peace, peace, peace. Good evening to the world. Peace to everybody tuning in. Peace, no patience. Peace, Gita Life. Peace, Sage. Peace 34, Miss Green. Also known as Black Butterfly. Thank you for coming in and encouraging folk to do their due diligence. What did you say? You told them come in and like the video. To visit the website. Let me show that comment. Thank you. Yeah, y'all go and visit the website. And you know, here's the Cash App if you want to show some love. If you feel moved at any time. But yeah, but thank you, 34. So hope all is well with everybody in these dynamic times that we're living in, where 4 months and a year goes by in what seems like 4 weeks. You know, what a time. So I wanted to get on here and talk briefly about tomorrow or in the morning, the upcoming new moon, which will be at 6:52 a.m. Central Standard Time, new moon in Aries. Very interesting energy around this new moon, especially for me personally. If you tuned in on the last broadcast, I talked about some placements in my chart
and how my Chiron is at 28 of Aries, and my South Node is at 27 of Aries. And so this new moon has a lot of personal significance for me. And I think it is just on a macrocosmic scale, it still holds great significance, which is why I wanted to get on here and just kind of chop it up quickly about this. So I'll start by sharing let's see if I can show the chart here. I'll find it and share it so you can see it. All right. So there we go with the new moon. That's interesting though, because I can't see myself now. Okay. Let's see how I can do this. All right. There we go. All right. So this is so small. I had to look on my paper to read this, to see everything. Hopefully y'all should be able to see this chart pulled up for the new moon in Aries in the morning. Am I still live? Can y'all give me something? Am I still live? Can y'all see the chart? Can you hear me? Because I'm getting all these funny things showing up on my screen over here. Can somebody put something in the chat if I'm still... Okay, good. Thank you. No patience. Okay. Thank you, Royal. Thank you, I am she. Okay. I just want to make sure. Funny stuff going on. Okay, thank you, Black Butterfly. Okay, so here's the deal. The sky, the majority of the sky at this new moon is answering to Mars. Mars is the dun data for this new moon. And this is an angry Mars. This is a very driven Mars. This is a frustrated Mars. This is a assertive Mars. Why is Mars frustrated? Well, Mars has been in a sign previously where no matter how great its attempts have been, it's just been in the type of territory that does not support forward, concise, directed movement. Mars does not like to second guess. Matter of fact, it doesn't know what that means. It only knows to go forward. And it's been in it, before it made its ingress in the Aries, it was in Pisces. And it was just scattered energy. Very frustrating. And so now Mars is like, okay, I dealt with that. I'm ready to go forward. And so that's why the title of this is No Choice But to Move Forward. So I want to skip ahead before I even start the little delineation here. Let's just go ahead and move to the end, and then we come back. Whatever has been initiated, it's already in motion. It's like A boulder is rolling downhill. You cannot try to stop it now. You were back there pushing on it, frustrated, sit down, push on it. Well, now it's rolling, and there's no time to second guess. It's too late. The energy says go. The time to figure things out has been, I don't even know how we had to take it in stages, but we're going to say at least for the past 3 years, if you talk about the Saturn squaring Jupiter, holding up the vision, holding up the idea. And you think about then all of the outer planets that were in feminine signs, and we got the last one of the outer planets that's at 29 degrees. And we got to really keep our eye between now and the end of next week when Uranus makes its ingress into Gemini. So it's kind of like things are ticking up more and more. But it's the last one. And it's only days from being done. It makes no more re-ingresses back into Taurus. This is it. And so the theme is that the time to get things in order were back yonder. Now the ball is rolling. And this Aries new moon really signifies or echoes or represents that same theme. Okay. And from the standpoint of Mars, it wouldn't have it any other way, because that's what it does, is move forward. So when I say the sky is answering to Mars, there are only 2 planets really that are not under the sway of Mars dispositorship in Aries. And that would be Venus, because Venus is in her domicile in Taurus. And that would be Uranus, because Uranus is answering to Venus. But everybody else is answering to Mars at this new moon. Jupiter is in Cancer. The moon, which is what Jupiter's answering to, is in Aries. Pluto is in Aquarius. Well, traditional ruler Saturn is in Aries. So everybody's answering again to this energy. We have an east dominated sky. This chart I have pulled is almost reflecting that of the natural zodiac. The natural zodiac has Aries rising. So we're just off by one house here. We've got Taurus rising based on where I am located. But because Taurus is rising here at the time of this new moon, it does give us a visual representation of the oriental orientation of the sky. Orientation, all of those just mean east. The sky is leaning to the east. And that is from the subjective perspective, which is the first house 1. And well, we just look from Taurus to Gemini, and then from an objective, just based on the way the house structure is from where I'm at, Pisces and Aries, they're in the south of this chart that I have here. Taurus and Gemini and Cancer are in the north. So the sky is tilting to the east The north would be the private. That's below the horizon. The south would be the public. That's above. The private is what we are subjected to. The public is how we objectify. Below the chart is about me. It's my private interactions. How are they serving me? Above the horizon, my public, my worldly interactions, how are they serving me? This is a very selfish new moon. And it can go negatively selfish or positively selfish because the sky is about self. The eastern side of the chart is the wheel, and the western side is fate. It is what has said will be done. That's fate. That's the west. But the east is about the wheel because this is where the sun rises. So it is about what am I going to do? What do my personal private relationships, what do they mean for me? My public business interactions, the associations I'm involved with, the people, the groups, what are they doing for me? A lot of emphasis on this with how the sky is oriented right now. So we're thinking about effects, we're thinking about benefits, we're thinking about enhancements of what? Self. Now, that does not necessarily mean that it's negative, as in the negative expression of selfishness. The negative expression of selfishness is I do whatever I'm going to do without regard to how it can impact others. That's the negative. The positive side of selfishness is that I must make sure I'm okay first. Because if I'm not okay, as noble as my desires may be for others, they don't matter unless I'm okay. Because if I'm not okay, I'm not in the equation to actually be of benefit or to be an asset to anybody else. So I got to make sure I'm straight. That's kind of the common sense side of selfishness. A lot of emphasis on this. Why? Because we got 7 planetary, or not planetary, 7 heavenly bodies in Aries right now. Count them: Neptune, Mercury, Mars, Saturn, dwarf planet Chiron, luminary, sun, luminary, Luna or moon. All 7 bodies are in Aries. Aries is the baby of the zodiac. In the grand man, you see the grand man with who is bent backwards, the head back to the feet. Aries is the head, which is in a normal birth, is what emerges from the womb. It is the initiating physical contact with the 3-dimensional world. Your head comes in first. So this is not a cliche. This new moon absolutely is about moving forward. It absolutely is about initiating. It absolutely is about you overcoming fears, overcoming what has seemed to be roadblocks, overcoming setbacks. And so two things I want to look at about that. Look at proximity. Always pay attention. If you're looking at your chart or you're looking at somebody else's chart, never abandon your common sense. Proximity always has significance. Okay? So let me give you an example of what I mean. Look at Neptune and look at Saturn. They are flanking two personal planets. Mercury and Mars are personal planets. Now, understand that when Mercury and Mars energies commingle, they produce a sharpness in thought. Okay? They produce a sharp tongue. How do I know? Because my Mercury and Mars are conjunct in my chart. Sharp tongue, right? Words can cut. Mind is sharp. Thoughts are about taking action, direction, no jostling around with wasted details. Let's get to the point. Okay? Now, there are some absolute negatives about the two energies coming together. We may be so quick to say something that it can be so hurtful, and this same knife that can be precise in carving up something beautiful can carve up a person's heart, can carve up a person's sense of self-worth and leave them wounded for life, right? So our actions may be driven by haste. There's not a lot of patience with Mercury and Mars together. Okay. So we got to always acknowledge both sides of the coin, right? But here's what adds or throws everything kind of in a tizzy. All four of these planets are conjunct. They're still within range of a very active conjunction. Neptune at 2, Mercury at 3, Mars at 5, Saturn at 7. Very active. So all their energies are still in proximity and they're feeling each other, right? So the way that the two personal planets, Mars and Mercury, would naturally act when they get together is being skewed, though, by Saturn flanking them on one side and Neptune flanking them on the other. So check it out. Didn't Mercury just come out of retrograde and clear its shadow? And where was this retrograde? In Pisces, where it was doubly debilitated. It was debilitated by sign and debilitated by retrograde motion. It clears its shadow, but it still has the residue of the chaotic energy still hanging on because it is still conjunct Neptune, the modern ruler of Pisces. And Neptune, one word that Neptune is associated with is disintegration. And Mercury, when it is in its rulership of Virgo, is about integration. Virgo wants to pull things together and figure out the puzzle. How? Because in our bodies, your Virgo ruled digestive organs are trying to sift through all of the data, which is the food, the nutrients you've taken in, and figure out how can we take the good stuff and integrate it back into the system. So you still have these energies still, although we've cleared the shadow, retrograde is ended, Mercury still is not done with the residue of what it has been through. So the mind still is not all the way clear. While at the same time, it is conjunct Mars and it wants to go forward. It's almost like it's schizophrenic. It's not schizophrenic, not schizophrenic. It's almost like it's bipolar. On one side is sharp. I know this is the answer, but I don't know, but I don't know. I know, but I don't know. Here's the other side. Flanking Mars is Saturn. And this is a Saturn that does not do well in Aries. The best way to learn astrology is to have live human interaction. Okay? That is the best. Like when you go to school, you have the lecture. Like my daughter's in college, my oldest. She's got lecture biology, she's got lab biology. You go in the lab and you actually are supposed to be applying what you've been learning about in the lecture series. Okay? So you study books, that's your lecture series. But if you can actually get live data, that's how you really start learning astrology. So you learn about Saturn and Aries. It's beautiful if you can just be around some of these people. If you have a parent or a grandparent who was born in the late 30s, they've got Saturn in Aries. If you have a sibling, or depending on your age, it might be a parent or it might be you. If you're born in the late 60s, guess what? You got Saturn in Aries. So you can judge, if you can be honest about judging or assessing your own life, but it's easier when you can look at somebody else outside of you, right? We know that's always easier. And there's sometimes you may notice with Saturn and Aries, there is a delay in maturing. That's a common theme with Saturn and Aries, delayed maturation, because Saturn is time and the time is skewed in Aries where it is debilitated. There also can sometimes be misplaced aggression and rebellion because it's the energy of the arena that we're functioning in, which is Aries, which does not mix well with the authoritative energy of Saturn. And that clash creates this resistance to authority or resistance to anything that seems like the rules. Okay. And I always use this, the generation that comes in 1967. This is the generation that is what would be labeled as Generation X. We don't know what, although it actually is said to start at 65, but predominantly, that generation in there, because the 65, 66, they're last deacon of Pisces, Saturn in Pisces, but 67, this is when it rolls into Aries. Saturn rolls into Aries, and you also got, we got the Pluto and Uranus in Virgo. So this group was said to be, we don't know what these fools gonna do. Let's just call them the unknown. Okay. And the goal was for that group to never grow up. For my whole generation to never grow up. That was the plan. So that gives you data to kind of understand the conflict now with Saturn in Aries. And then, so you got Saturn's got its own issues that it already has in the energy of Aries. But now it is conjunct the ruler. And Mars is saying, when I'm in your house, where Mars is dignified in Capricorn, I listen. I don't want to listen, but I'm forced to listen. But I will say that I can see some of the benefits of you putting the brakes on me. But now you're in my house and it is time to go. So this is how I wanted to focus on how can you work with this energy of Saturn and Mars together in Aries. You may have to seek help from some systematic structure or something that appears to be authoritative or something that might have some type of senior position. Now, I don't know how that works out for everybody, but be open-minded to receiving some tutelage, be open-minded to I don't want to use the word mentor because I've found something about that etymology that don't clock right. So we're gonna say be open to receiving guidance where it is healthy. Put it that way. Be open to that. Because with Mars being so backed up and so charged up and ready to come out the gates and run over anything, Mars must always remember there's a reason that it is supposed to be in the passenger seat and not the driver's seat. Because you put Mars in the driver's seat, it's like the old crash dummy commercials from the 80s. Straight into the wall, right? Airbags deployed. But now Mars is in Aries and it's like, I'm driving. Oh, now Autobahn. So we have to, it's a paradox, right? It's contradictory. There's a lot of contradiction in what I just said. The whole title is No Choice But to Move Forward. Now I'm saying though, so in other words, what I'm saying is you gotta move forward, but you can't be a reckless fool. Does that make sense? You have to move forward, even though it may feel like you're not moving forward. You have Mercury conjunct Neptune. Neptune creates illusions. So your mind may be playing tricks on you. And then Mercury is conjunct Mars. So that now you're angry because you feel like I'm getting mixed messages. I'm angry. I'm anxious. I'm impatient. I want to go forward. Then you got Mars, who's like, y'all all in my house. Everybody answering me. I said, we taking the boats to the enemy shore and we're going to burn the boats. And then Saturn's like, whoa, young fella. I don't think he's like, man, fuck you. You ain't running nothing. This is my house now. And Saturn's like, but I have wisdom, you dumb motherfucker. And so all of these are clashing and we're having to figure all this shit out within us. There's a value to Saturn being in Aries. There's a value to any planet being debilitated. It brings something to the table that possibly was overlooked, likely has been overlooked. So we're having to figure out how to not lean into the negative side of the influences of Saturn and Neptune. Negative influences are roadblocks being put in, or what feels like are being still put in the way. And there may be internally having to fight with our own sense of fear, being afraid of taking the next step. That's the thing that Saturn can do too. And then Neptune, we ain't clear about what we really thinking. Those are the negatives. The positives are that Saturn can put the brake on. You're at an intersection. The light just turned green. Mars says it's time to go. Saturn says, wait just 1/2 second. In that 1/2 second, somebody ran the red light. And if you would have gone immediately when the light turned green, you would have been T-boned by this person who was running the red light. That is a potential positive way to use all of this energy. But I'm going to tell you, when you have felt like you've been struggling and you're behind the 8 ball, sometimes it is hard to allow the space for one more fucking hesitation. You like, if I have one more motherfucking roadblock, I'm going to blow a gasket. I can't take no more roadblocks. I can't take no more. Be patient. Wait. I can't take no more of that shit. But don't forget what Saturn also represents. In addition to time, it represents suffering. Suffering is a metaphysical code word. Suffer also means asfar, and asfar in Arabic means gold. The suffering is to achieve the asfar, or the gold, or asfar is what we would call saffron, suffer, cipher. Cipher becomes 0. So the suffering of the emptiness, the barrenness that it feels, that is part of the road to the gold. So what Saturn always is bringing into the equation is the endurance. And sometimes you just want to feel like you've made it. It's like I have learned my lesson with the endurance, and I'm tired of it. But we must continue to press on, because Saturn's here's the thing about Saturn is quasi a trickster. Let me tell you how Saturn's a trickster in a funny way. You know, Mercury's associated with the trickster energy. I want to tell you about Saturn though. Saturn's a trip. Saturn got some trickster energy, because Saturn knows when the payoff is coming. But that motherfucker won't tell you. And it will sit back and see just if you were going to quit. You like, and Saturn's like, this dummy had 2 more steps to go, and this motherfucker quit. Got him. I knew he was weak. I knew she was a sucker. I knew she was tissue paper. Soft as Charmin. I knew it. She only had 2 more steps, and that motherfucker quit. He's like, that's why I do what I do. I certify people. I determine whether you're going to get the goal. Because I want to see if you soft, if you weak. You know, so I hope I'm making sense. The absolute value is that the sky is still answering to Mars. Okay, so you must move forward. But you must move forward as the scientist who takes into takes account of all of the energies and what are they bringing to the table, and understanding this, that everybody in this 7 body stellium, they are representatives. They are representatives. That's like they come into the meet at the UN, right? And they are all representing their constituents or their country. Saturn is representing Aquarius and Capricorn in your chart. Mars is representing Aries and Scorpio in your chart. Mercury is representing Gemini and Virgo in your chart. Pisces, from modern standard, is representing, Neptune is representing Pisces. The sun is representing Leo. The moon is representing Cancer. So all of these houses are looking towards Aries to see, what are you going to do with this energy? How are you going to mitigate all of these complex energies folded all onto each other at one time? What are you either initiating or taking the next step with that has already been initiated? They're all looking. They're all looking at you, waiting to see what you're going to bring back to them based on how you are handling life, where Aries is in your chart. Where is Aries in your chart? How are you moving in life where Aries is in your chart? That's why this new moon is so significant. Okay, back to my notes. Too much freestyling. All right. Although Mercury starts feeling overwhelmed. Okay, so yeah, that it's common for you to be feeling overwhelmed right now. Feeling like you got one foot on the gas, one on the brake. This is testing your endurance, of course, testing your patience. You're probably tired of hearing that shit, but it is what it is. And again, don't be afraid to accept authoritative help. And I want to be, look, y'all are not no dummies. You know how to use your brain and figure out how does this work out for you in your life. It's not necessarily about bowing down to anybody, but like, okay, I might take some help right here. Saturn's also business. That's the planet of business. So it might be some type of help with a business, being more professional in your experience in the Aries part of your chart, being more organized, being more responsible, So just think about that. This is something I wrote. In spite of the roadblocks, uncertainty, frustration, you must continue moving. Be unmoved while continuing to move. Take action even though it feels like nothing is happening and nothing is moving. I want to read these again. Be unmoved while continuing to move. paradoxical statement, of course, contradictory. Take action even though it feels like nothing is happening. That's almost seems insane to keep taking action, but ain't nothing happening. Ain't nothing moving. But that's the mind trick. That's the mind trick. And I try to personally, or how I present, I try to be honest and not ever try to stunt like, you know, I'm talking to you peasants. I've got this shit mastered. I don't. I don't. I don't care how much you know, how much you, and you know, it's like the astrology is almost like being the weather forecaster, the meteorologist. You know, I know rain's coming. I know it's coming, but you don't always know exactly how the rain is going to affect you. You're right. You know, although you knew the rain was coming, but sometimes just the fact that it's gloomy outside, you know, you get lost in the lack of vitamin D and you just but you knew the rain was coming. Now it would have been worse if you didn't know and you went out there and you got your shell toe Adidas on, the white ones, you know, and it's like they all muddied up now. But even knowing that it was going to rain, you still got to live through the rain. And so to be moving while feeling like nothing's moving, to be unmoved while you continue to move. That's something we all have to find our own individual means of doing that. For me, it is if the vision was given, don't abandon it in spite of whatever the temporary pains that are being experienced. So you know what I really could have called this? You know what this new moon really is about? And don't get upset. I'm not trying to go to church, but it's about faith. And now I don't mean it religiously. The word faith, the religion does not have the trademark on the word faith. The word faith means fidelity, and fidelity means trust. What do you trust in? Because if your trust is based on something solid, you gonna keep moving. You ain't got no choice. You are gonna keep moving because you trust in the directive that was given to you. Mars is ultimately about, I just said it. Mars is ultimately about, Aries is ultimately about faith. A baby doesn't know or remember its contract. Its exit from the womb is a roll of the dice. All it has faith in is that it'll discover its path / its purpose. And in doing so, it will discover its protection and its promotion. I like to read that again. A baby does not know or remember its contract. So in other words, when you incarnate here, so from my school of thinking is that depending on your level of learning in the previous existence, some have a chance to go to their academic advisor and choose which classes they're going to take in this next semester or the next incarnation on Earth. But the trick is, once you are born, there's a high percentage of a chance that you won't remember the contract. You come here stupid. And so when you exit the womb, it's a roll of the dice. Are you going to be able to rediscover what the path was, what your purpose was? And the roll of the dice is, if you don't, but if you do, then the discovery of that is a key piece of your protection and your promotion. And that's what I mean by the faith part. The trust and the fidelity in the protection of being a person moving in purpose and moving on your path. One thing I also wanted to highlight in this is that in this chart, Lilith, if you look, let me see if my cursor, if you look, where is Lilith? See right there, that's Lilith. Lilith is at like, what is that? Is that 18? Oh, here, let me look at it. It's at 13. Lilith is at 13 degrees of Sagittarius. And Lilith is in a sesqui-square to the sun and the moon. And I feel bad. I've talked so much about Mars. I've overlooked the stars of the show. It's the sun and the moon. That's what the new moon is really about. They're at a point of birth, but they are in conflict with Lilith. And so I feel like Lilith too often is relegated to gender wars. We got to be more deeper and nuanced thinking than that. Lilith is why does Lilith show up in everybody's chart if it's about a gender? Lilith is about rebellion. Okay. So Lilith is a rebellious energy wherever she is in your chart. And that energy does not allow us to have comfort when we're trying to just go along with the status quo. Wherever Lilith is in your chart, you cannot approach that area of your life with just, well, this is what the textbook says I'm supposed to do this in step 1, step 2. It is something more ancient. Ooh, Lilith conjunct Lilith. Pay attention to that. So with Lilith in that position, this is what I wrote. You can hide and play it safe, but at the same time, the fire you emit may present danger. But you don't have a choice. You shrink, you die. Lilith is in Sagittarius. Sun and moon are in Aries. So this is about fire. So you're in a rock and hard place. You can hide and try to play safe. But then when you emit the fire, it can burn up everything. But the absolute value is, if you don't light the match, you don't exist. And I'm gonna give you something to make so this is not so esoteric and so metaphorical. Let's go to the body. You got something in you called adrenaline and cortisol. Now, there's a condition that can arise, especially if you have metabolic issues in the body. Metabolic issues, a lot of times, are one of the main things behind a lot of ailments, a lot of chronic things, metabolic dysfunction. So metabolic dysfunction, one of the things it can contribute to is something called adrenal fatigue. Okay. Then you have something called cortisol, which is a neurotransmitter. Every time in the morning when you get up, our bodies are on a circadian rhythm, which is a day clock. All our organs got their own little clocks for the day. At certain times of the day, we do this. Well, in the morning, cortisol levels shoot up. Why? Because that is the fire of life. If your body ain't producing no cortisol and you cannot produce adrenaline, you're not alive. That burst of energy in the morning is to mimic the rising of the sun. The rising of the cortisol is mimicking the rising of the sun. And if you put that fire out, you're through dealing. So this Lilith, sesqui square means 135 degrees away, or another term is sesquiquadrant. Sesqui's a half, quadrant is 90, because it's 90 plus 45. So they're in not as harsh of a conflict as a square, but it's some type of issue between those two energies. And it's something here about courage, but then it's also about understanding how to use the fire. Thank you, Black Butterfly. And I just sit with it. Just sit with it. It may be kind of coming through kind of esoteric, but you sit with it. And I think with that, I think I covered everything I want to say about this new moon. The absolute value, though, what I want to make sure that this does not get lost in translation, is that regardless of, let me see, I need to add myself to the stage here, Jack. How do I? Regardless of all these factors, I know I've kind of jumped all around here. Let's make this real simple. The bottom line is be mindful of where Aries is in your chart and ask yourself, am I supposed to be taking action? If I'm an Aries rising, it's about me. It could be my body. It could be about how I present myself into the world. What action do I need to be taking? If I'm Pisces rising, it's financial, resources, it's self-worth. What do I need to be action do I need to be taking that impacts that area of my life? If I'm Aquarius rising, it is mentally. How do I communicate? How do I move within my little community, my little space? What actions do I need to be taking that involve my personal impact on my immediate surroundings? If I'm a Capricorn rising, then it's about family. What are my roles? What is my role in my family? What am I supposed to be initiating? How am I juggling this energy? How am I handling the fire? If I am Sagittarius rising, it's in the 5th house. Action around what I have created, which can be children, and it can be an object, it can be a system, whatever I've created. How am I taking action around experiencing joy? In other words, how do I act about expressing love out into the world? How do I give it? When we're in a state of joy, we're in a state of being able to shine love out, just like the sun, 5th house, right? How am I acting, taking action about that? And mind you, when I'm doing this, I'm just speaking from simplifying this. This is whole house, right? You know, because I'm a Sag rising, but I don't have Aries in the 5th, right? From a Placidus, but we're simplifying this. All right. If I'm Scorpio rising, then it's going to be in my 6th house. Am I getting clues to take action about my health? What am I initiating? How am I being assertive around my health and wellness? How am I taking action to integrate things into my day-to-day life that put things in order? If I'm a Libra rising, what's my relationship identity? How do I show up in my one-on-one interactions with others, whether it is platonic or romantic? Am I defined through the relationship? Is it time for me to be more assertive in how I participate in that aspect of my life? Virgo rising, in my 8th house, Aries sits. And how am I initiating action around old wounds, old hurts, the secret caverns within me? How am I taking action around my subconscious processes? Do I have the courage to die to myself? See, the 8th house and the 1st come under traditional rulership of Mars. And that's why they don't see eye to eye, because the Mars in Aries is about, I want to live. The Mars in Scorpio is a seasoned Mars. And it's like, but I understand it that for me to live, I gotta die. So for Virgo rising, you are looking at that. How do I die so that I live? How do I transform? How do I transmute? For Leo rising, this is in your 9th house. And this is acting out what we said earlier about this Aries new moon is about faith. Because in your 9th house, from your 9th house, this is where we are considering, when we talk about faith, it is also talking about what is your higher truth? How are you acting from a space of your higher truth, your philosophy, your grand vision of the thing itself? Okay. If you are, where we at? Cancer rising, then how am I taking action and initiative around my legacy? How am I asserting myself into the annals of time? What am I doing that will be seen as my public identity? How will it shape my public identity? What do people know me for? What will they know me for? Gemini rising. How do I assert myself into networks? How do I assert myself into a future timeline? How do I create my future? How do I take action to receive love? Fifth house is me giving love. 11th house is me receiving it. So if it's in the 11th, I am taking action around me involving myself with those who align with my identity. I always use this analogy. The cheers. 11th house is the cheers effect. Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name and they're always glad you came. How are you acting from that space? Taurus rising, 12th house. What's the identity that was thrust upon you that you didn't even know about? How are you? This is a tough one. This is a tough one because if it's in the 12th house, then it's in the domain still of that chaotic, disintegrating Piscean energy. And so it is picking up the energy of someone else's timeline. A lot to do with your mother and your father's timeline and however their interactions were while you were gestating. So you're having the courage to take the action to pull an identity, a seed out of a pool of indifferentiated energy. You're having the courage to take the initiative to rise out of a pool and to actually become something of your own. To acknowledge all the different energies that are in this pool. And yes, they do affect me. But at the end of the day, it's almost like that Maya Angelou, still I rise. If you got this energy in your 12th house, this is still I rise. Y'all have to pardon me, if it's you'll feel it. You sit with it. And this is just off the top of my head. So but I hope it makes sense. So how does it play out for progress Virgo rising? I have to sit with that. I mean, it is whatever I said for Virgo. If it's progressed, you are still in a phase. So if the progress chart is giving you a new moon is a fleeting moment but what you do in that fleeting moment will impact the rest, can sometimes impact the rest of your life. But when we look at a progressed chart, you can't take a progressed chart and aspect it to a transit. If that makes sense. Those are two different. Once you deal with a progressed, that is a calculated time. So you don't apply those to a transit in the sky. Those are two completely different things. The transit is real-time movement, right? Or at least it appears to be from our perspective, but we're measuring the actual movements by longitudinal and latitudinal position. The progressed is something that's a mathematical calculation. So that's is each house like a month? Each sign is like a month, but each house is the houses. And if you think about a month, you think more about the sign, because that's more of the sun is moving at a click of a degree a day, and it's going to move through a sign, boom, boom, boom. So if you're thinking about that, you think of houses. Don't mix houses and months. Those are two different. Think more of month as it coincides with a sign. A house is an arena. It is not the house. Time wise for a house only applies to the moment of your birth. But when you talk about months, you're now dealing with signs, because we are dealing with tropical astrology, and so we are following the sun's movement through the zodiacal belt. Gita Life said, "I'm not people pleasing anymore." Libra rising. That's a big statement for Libra rising, because the identity, tends to come through the balancing of the scales. Let's see if anything else. My mom is born 1937. Oh, Saturn. I have first house Saturn conjunct a few of my personal planets. My mother and I clashed. I challenged her with very interesting. So I'm gonna say, so this is why. So just from that, I'm gonna tell you why this is important. Now, this I'm gonna highlight this one. Look at this. Lisa said her mom's born in 37, so that means that her mother's gonna have Saturn in probably around somewhere around. Matter of fact, this is almost like the Saturn return for that group, because I think Saturn might have been around 3 or 4 or 5 of Aries in 37. Well, depends on, let me stop. It depends on what time of the year, but we're somewhere in there. Either way, Saturn in Aries. And if you have Saturn in your first house, and what is the first house energetically? It's Aries. So if you all will study closely your chart and parent or parents and your children, you'll see how storylines keep playing out. So somewhere in your contract, you're figuring out this, there's a block somewhere in the bloodline around the development of the personal will, the identity. There's some type of maturation that needs to occur. And so if you are the one in your family who can spot this, then that means you're the one who was part of your contract was to come and to figure this out and start sorting through it, because y'all are mirroring each other in this manner. She's got Saturn in Aries, you got Saturn in the first house. And this could kind of speak to the clash. I hope that makes sense. So okay, I think I covered about, but yeah, so it is an energy of, it's definitely, like I said, you put all of the details to the side. Just know this: you got to take you got to take action. You you must have courage, and if you mess up, so what? Because it's better to mess up than it is to not move. Because in this reality, the Kabbalion, I don't know if the first axiom is the mind is all and all is mental, and there's the law correspond. The second, maybe the second law, because third axiom is correspondence. It may be the second one, but one of them is everything is moving, everything is vibrating. So there's absolutely no way that you can exist in a healthy manner and not move. Water, when it does not move, is dead. That's why mosquitoes are attracted to water. It's stagnant. But when water moves, water can always heal itself. So let me add this on the end here of the presentation, that this Aries new moon is also about healing. It's not just about faith, it's also about healing. So maybe we're discovering a hidden motif of Aries. It's healing properties, while Chiron is at 26 degrees conjunct the new moon, the sun and the moon. Maybe in discovering this truth of who we are, or not discovering, but realizing what we already know, bringing it to the fore, that it creates an energy of healing, because Chiron is about the truth. And nothing is more injurious than a lie. And the real secret of Chiron as a wounded healer is that it's seeking a higher truth. And the truth is what heals. Okay. I'm an Aries rising as well, 22 degrees, Venus conjunct at 25. Clash with my Libra moon. Ooh, yeah. 7th house. My mother is also a Libra and always disliked me. So did she dislike you, or did she dislike herself? Because that's reflection, right? And sometimes we don't have the language to describe these things. We have we kind of have the advantage that we have these tools more available to us. I just think a lot of times, you go at least just one generation back, there's no language to put to this, there's no language to even describe how somebody's feeling, Virgo here, my gut is going to the charts this month. It's like twisting constantly and doctors don't know. Going off the charts this month. Constantly and doctors don't know what it is. I'm not a doctor, but I'm gonna tell you, I do think it wouldn't hurt to consider a non-invasive alternative means of seeking to figure out what you might be going through. So this is a sidetrack from we do bioresonance scans and therapy. And what a bioresonance machine is ultimately is a well-tuned ear. And your body is like a myriad of orchestras playing at one time. And this well-tuned ear is listening. Every organ, every system has a song that is playing, and it listens to see if something's out of tune. So maybe you may want to consider, and this is not just some, I think y'all know I'm not a carnival act, but this is in our wheelhouse. You may consider circle-of-life.com. You just tuck that in your back pocket and you'll be amazed at what a fingernail can tell you that is quantumly entangled to your vessel. And one thing about Virgo is that if there's emotional turmoil, your stomach, your digestive system is going to register it. And, there's just a myriad of other things that could be going on. It could be little, I don't even know if you're safe to say, well, I'm just going to say parasites. You got to wonder, what can you say on the internet now? Parasites, pathogen, so just keep that in mind. I'll keep moving on. I don't want to, but is there, Aries is March, the first month, right? I don't know anything about March is the first month. That's when Aries starts in March. Houses are only determined by the time of your birth. At the time of your birth and where you are born, when they clock that time, you find the east, wherever you're at. Where is the east? And there's an imaginary line called the horizon line. Okay. From wherever east is, wherever you were born, at that time that they clocked you at, wherever that east is, there's an imaginary, and the horizon is where you see the sky meet the ground. That is the horizon line. And that line runs all the way out to the zodiacal belt. It's an imaginary line. So you take your point of sight from wherever east is, where the ground meets the sky, and that line runs all the way out to the zodiacal belt. And that is called your first house cusp. And then based on whatever house system we're using, the house system is a means of calculating distance. Some are based on actual distance, some are based on time. And depending on that, and longitude and latitude, if you're in the higher northern latitudes, you're more apt to have like wedge style charts and more compressed. I can remember all this, but that's in a nutshell. That's how your houses are set. It's all based on your actual time. that has nothing to do with the signs of the zodiac in the months. Those are two different things. It's like it's two dials that are moving. You know, the sun is moving, right? But the house is set. That's a different dial that is set based on what time you're born. Okay. Just had my Chiron return in Aries. 14 degrees. Oh, congratulations. I'm in the midst of mine right now. So congratulations. Hopefully you had some discoveries, powerful discoveries. My parents, because birth chart doesn't have a birth time. I don't know where to go from there. Try to call the city. If they weren't born to a midwife, because it depends on, you know, where they were born. Every municipality is different. Some will give you information, some won't. But it doesn't hurt to try. Call and ask and see if they have a time of birth. Okay. If you can't get a time of birth, then the next best thing is you take out an ephemeris and you at least see where the planets were on the day of their birth. And then you can see how those planets are impacting your chart because you have your time of birth. You can see where my mother's Venus was in Taurus. And then you see, well, where's Taurus in your chart? Right? You see, well, what degree was Venus at on the day of your mother's birth? And say, well, how does her value system impact my chart? You know, and then but the other thing you can do is something called a rectification. But it's tedious and it's a long process because you got to take a lot of events that have happened in their lives and you are reverse engineering their lives to come back to a estimated time of birth. If your parents know if it was during night or day, it'll be helpful to absolutely. Even if you don't know that's right. That's right. Because you cut out a whole 12 hours of guesswork if you know whether they were born, night or day. That's a good point. Aries moon and Mars, things are moving well for me and I'm taking action right on. Congratulations. All right. So that wraps it up. I appreciate y'all tuning in. I hope this has provided some edification. Peace to everybody again who tuned in. I appreciate y'all. And as always, you know, you can find me at 720astrology.com for all of your astrological needs. I do have my bundle that is available on my website with all of my metaphysical and astrological learning tools, including my intro to medical astrology handout. I have that available in the bundle now on my website. It gives you a great way to be more empowered about mitigating things with your health and wellness. The power is in the hands of the people now, and the people must take the reins because systems are collapsing and the ball is in our court whether we want it or not. So it's a great way to be empowered. Another way we are ahead of the astrology in the fact that we have grabbed the reins of where things are moving. Technology is not completely evil. There are ways to use it in in a manner that will be beneficial and helpful. And we have tapped into that with our bioresonance therapy devices that we also use, and we couple those with homeopathic recommendations, nutritional recommendations. You know, the thing is, like they say, who was that? The person who was talking about the Virgo who was talking about their stomach. Like, we would take your fingernail, we would scan it. And what it does is almost like it creates a holographic image of you. And we'll look at a 3D reflection of that on the computer in real time. You would be watching it with us as we're, like, say if you're on Zoom, you might be in Chicago, right? I'm in Texas. We'll be on Zoom, and I'll share the screen. You'll be watching it scan your entire body while we're on there together. If energetically, because this is not a diagnostic tool and I'm not a doctor, it is a very sensitive ear that we have, this machine. It's going to be listening to the frequencies coming from your system, through your fingernail, which is quantumly entangled to your body. Because it's shared the same space, if you take a piece of what do they call that? When they did the test with the of a film, piece of film, it has everything that's on the entire thing is on every little piece you take. Okay? That is the same as your fingernail being a little piece of you. Everything about you is in that keratin that crystallizes the fingernail. It's your crystallized data. We take that, we scan it. If anything shows up energetically in the intestines, the pancreas, the gallbladder, the colon, the stomach, it will show. Okay? We can then see if there's any type of pathogen that has been causing the problem. Now, you send frequency that addresses wherever there has been hypofunction found. It also scans that same area to see, well, what types of foods are most beneficial for that particular part of the body to function at its best. And this is where the power comes in. And we're merging nature with technology in a non-invasive way. You're not getting stuck with nothing. You ain't taking nothing in. And there's no foreign invader that stays with you that you can't. It's all non-invasive. And it's mind-blowing. So y'all keep that in mind. That's circle-of-life.com. We're doing amazing things. So with that in mind, I'll bring this to a close. I'll wrap up with we'll throw on a little something since it's Thursday night. The week is almost over. I will we'll throw on. Here's one I haven't played much. And I want to say this before I conclude. Somebody left a comment last week. It was like in the comments, I was already closing the broadcast and I saw a comment in the chat like, when is the album coming? So we do have an album that it's been done. We said we were going to release it winter solstice. Of course, that came and went. So tell me in the comments, we're doing our own little, what do they call this, survey. Put a 1 in the comment if you would support us if we put our album on Bandcamp, Dominance Hierarchy. Give us a 1 if you would be willing to support. And what we're going to do is going to be donation based. You give us what you think the art is worth. Doing something that's especially out of my character, you know. But I feel like in for that's what, because really for us, I would just like to have the funds. I got a million other tracks. I got some ill beats that my man has sent me, that I've written to and that I want to record to. And next time I get on, I'll have some of those uploaded on here so you can listen to some of the tracks. But if you rock with the music, leave a 1, just let us know that, okay, I would be one of the, I just want to see, you know. But I'm going to put it on Bandcamp, and it's going to be available. It's 10 tracks, 12 if you add the little interludes, 12 tracks, and we're going to make it available on there by donation. That's how we feeling about it. 720astrology.com, circle-of-life.com. Know the stars, know yourself, and always stay down till you get up. And when you get up, stay down. Peace.
I stand on 26 bones in my feet. Does your hey why hey come correct with me? Shin the sound with fire touch water then 300 men slain by the movement of the wind. 360 degrees, so let's begin. By the bend of the knee, Saturn fits us in. With 2 femurs crossed with a skull, they're closing in. It's either man or beast who is folding. The young chipper, Yom Kippur, knows a holy of holies lies behind the zipper. The sanctuary adorned in statuaries, the sacred bone where the vibrations can vary. The song of the spine that played wrong is scary, can prevent Adam Catman from reaching Mount Airy. Next to Mayberry, the Hiram high head, that's Aries. A ram in the bush, give that script a second look. 7 vertebrae from the neck got you hooked. That's Taurus, when the great word is formed in the throat of Horus. So ancient hymnals can be sung in chorus. All I have heard of substance is the middle. The nose, mouth, neck, heart, phallus, front and central. The womb for the woman is the portal with placental. The occult anatomy of man, monumental. That's spiritual, physical, and mental. When they in line, best believe not accidental. The mind oriental, chop wood, carry essentials. The saying on the word that exits through the dentals. The only savior that the adult soul knows is the burning bush within which the hardest unfroze. Or thaw, the southpaw meets on the level. Leaves on the silently dispose or get disheveled. My mind lit like a rolly with diamond bezel. The word, the word, the word, the word, the word. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Flirt with the future is as close as my shirt. Better yet, my skin, microorganisms at work. Every cell is a light body, a fallen angel. And every angle is a light that is quantum entangled. Every breath contains fire, air, and water. While the body is the earth, they place it in order. So-called elites and get with this, my sons and daughters. I'm their father and they know it. They know it. My body intact and I'm immortal. That's a proven fact, yeah. Complete, and there is no lack. Higher top Mount Ararat with a dish dashy on like I'm Yasser Arafat. But this ain't PLO, it's that God flow. The fire is hidden from the profane to know the occult anatomy of man, the light is shown. The occult anatomy of man, the light is shown. Yeah, the occult anatomy of man, the light is shown. The occult anatomy of man, the light is shown. feeling like Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. They want me to lose my balance like I got vertigo. It's vertical that I go to, I touch the cervical. Spying my mind, oh my, better than apple pie. A Mac systems, the word catch rhythm. Spaz out when flutes play, empty space fill 'em with bars that fragment like glass prisms. If they want the game, here's some fair, go and get 'em. But I promise you the tongue is a sword, might split 'em. Infuse the source in you with the first breath blue. There's fire in my shoes on top of my head too. It can warm, it can light or burn, it's up to you. The book's red like oxidized iron, the crook's blade. The blade pointed, pencil in hand, the beast fed. The bull stops here, I grip horns and get ahead. Left the carcass in the mountains of the Caucasus. The consequences of dabbling in metropolises. The city's opposites live the life of opulence, while the chosen, the few, is rather obvious when flutes play. When flutes play. Yeah. When flutes play, they say the feet move like Pele. Sharp knife fillet. When the words spit finay. When flutes play, they say the feet move like Pele. Sharp knife fillet. When the words spit finay. You may ask, Jamal, why you speaking such coded metaphor? My reply, so I can let hot air pass like a matador. My math's a cure for the unaccounted for, pure, who lost the jewel but confined the fraudulent source. The smell is hell, but you be amazed what manure can spark life in. When the odds ain't right, then seed still finds miraculous ways to grow at night. Sin is the move of primal ocean. Sit round 80 BPM so I can go in. Fire hit, water smoking. Every word spoken is a token to mend what has been broken. The flute melody floating. Something bubbling in the pot, lethal potion. Sniff, get a whiff, it's a gift. Him most high, most fly, most shy. I am that I am with a clear eye.